There we go. In here, we can start the show. Hopefully, Facebook is kind to us today, kinder than the results of yesterday's game. 1 and 2. All right, welcome in. It is Monday morning. Unfortunately, another loser lounge, whatever you want to call it. Monday morning, not victory. Broncos find themselves at 1 and 2 after another just absolutely heartbreaking, gut-wrenching loss as the Broncos lose a game and a last-second time expiration field goal that felt like it was as soon as the Chargers scored that touchdown, Eric. I thought 3 and out, Chargers march down the field, field goal. That's what's going to happen. And boy, howdy did it. Not to be the beacon of positivity here, but man, that one was a kick to the nards. Denver falls to 1 and 2. Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Obviously a little bit bummed about the loss yesterday, but I'm trying to be a different version of me a little bit this year, trying to be a little bit more on the optimistic side of it. So it's not end all be all. And one of the ways that we can, still look at this in a positive light is Denver's lost to 2 teams that are 3 and 0, and they've lost it by literally last second field goals. So, and that comes against the Colts where the defense was awful. And it comes against the Chargers where the offense was awful. So they've still managing to keep it close, but, it's kind of made it clear that they're not a great team. They're a good team. Great teams find ways to finish games, and Denver hasn't been able to finish games so far this season, which is a bit negative, but it's not end all be all. It's not the world is over. It's not the sky is falling. This team's better than people realize. Losing 2 games by last second field goals doesn't change that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm with you 100% on that. And my big bummer with this one is that this game felt like after the Broncos lost to the Bills last year, Sean Payton really harped on how important it was for the Broncos to win the division and have a home playoff game, just because if you're going on the road, odds are it's going to be very tough to win a playoff game because of the quality of opponent that you're playing. And obviously a lot of season to go, but now the Chargers effectively have a 1.5 game or 2.5 game lead on the Broncos. Yep, 2.5 game lead. They're 3 and 0. And Denver had this one again, self-inflicted wounds. Now, granted, a lot of the key parameters, statistically speaking, do favor the Chargers. The reason the Broncos are in this one is because they just beat the absolute hell out of Herbert and win the turnover battle +2 in this one. But the offense was just downright not good enough. It felt right now, it feels a lot like last season. And luckily for the Broncos, it appears next week we do see a lesser opponent after what the Vikings just did to the Bengals. I'm sure Denver is going to be looking to take out a little bit of frustration on that Cincinnati team, but it is the NFL. You never know. But yeah, very, very frustrating game from this one. And a lot of finger pointing. And I get the emotional stuff. When the game, I lean into the emotional reaction, but now that, it's got to sleep through it and everything, still very annoyed at Denver losing this game, but sometimes you got to tip your cap, and boy, man, right now through 3 weeks, if I was casting a ballot, I think I might give my MVP vote to Justin Herbert because he's been playing unbelievable football. And I think this was a game I saw that it was the highest pressured game he'd ever faced in his career. I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up being the most quarterback hit game of any team in the entire league this year, just with how much Denver was getting hands on him, and he still delivered. The stat line is not unbelievable, but considering the circumstances of the offensive line and what he was under, an unbelievable game from Herbert. And that's just what happens when you go against a top 5 quarterback. Positives, though, before we get into the chats, and make sure you guys are joining us, click the thumbs up and leave a super chat. We'll get to you if you do that. But overall, it did feel like the Broncos defense played like I expected them to, more so in this game. Now, granted, Surtain not elite. I know people are going to jump on Moss, but it's frustrating because I feel like he has good position. Just the ball goes through his arms. That lack of length sometimes is showing up at the catch point, as we're seeing. And the linebackers are not good. But I was full panic last week following that Colts game with how bad the defense looked. They rebounded it in this one, and especially the defensive line. Those edge rushers might be one of the best trio of edges in the entire league, and that's going to keep Denver in the playoff contention all season.
Yeah, I mean, there's still concerns about the secondary, I think, after this one. Riley Moss got targeted a lot. He only allowed 4 catches, though, on 11 targets. Pashtan still doesn't look the same. And, there was, the big play early on where he just kind of going to tackle it, and then he just pushes the guy away when Singleton comes in, and Johnson ends up taking it for a big gain after that. But the defensive front, man, they did such a great job in this game. They only blitzed like 25% of the time, and yet had 29 total pressures on Justin Herbert in this one.
Insane.
That's insane. And that's the way you got to do it against Justin Herbert, because you can't blitz him too much, because he's been one of the best quarterbacks against the blitz ever since he's come into the NFL. So they needed to win up front. They needed to win with 4 pretty consistently, and they were doing it. And it stinks because there are so many big plays by the Chargers, especially there at the end with Zach Allen right in his face. And you were just a hair's too short or too long to win, and just miss, and it ended up being a big play for the Chargers, which kind of stinks. But yeah, I mean, 29 pressures, 5 sacks. I don't know how many times he was hit, but it's a lot. This was the 5th highest pressure rate in the game or not pressure rate, but total pressures in the game for on the quarterback. And Denver just did a great job on it. 54.7% of the time. So basically 55% of the time of his dropbacks, Justin Herbert felt pressure. Like that's how you slow him down a little bit. And that's a good sign for the next game when they're playing in Denver at altitude, that they were able to get pressure. They can look back at this and try to win in some of the ways, and try to look at this game to where they can next time win better, because they're basically 3 games back in this one with the loss. But if they can beat the Chargers in the next one, well, then depending on what the rest of it is, that puts them in a better position. So still not over for winning the division, just still a long shot.
Yeah, this felt like almost a must-have as far as divisional chances go. But again, it's a long season, and you lost to obviously what turns into a Colts team. I mean, right now, if I was voting, again, Eric, MVP would probably be Justin Herbert. Offensive Player of the Year would probably be Jonathan Taylor. But yeah, some of that's because of what the Broncos didn't do, I guess, with Jonathan Taylor, and just the plays that Herbert was making. So sometimes you got to tip your cap, and Denver's really got to focus and take care of business and do what they did last year, which is win the games they're supposed to win, which right now hurts, but 2-2, you're right in the thick of things. So we got Dave Youngkin says, you have garbage play calling when you have less than 50 yards in the first quarter and did nothing in the last 2 minutes. The game to win the game, Sean, is a joke. David, I'm going to push back on this at all. The only reason there's any offense to begin with is because of Sean Payton dialed up plays. Right now, granted, I get frustrated with these screen calls as well, but anytime they call a drop back pass game concept, like a pure, full field read drop concept, it's not being executed. And that can be from the wide receivers. That can be the quarterback. But right now it's like, why is Sean calling so many screen plays? Why is it all these, calculated, drawn up shot plays as well? The other ones are not getting executed. And you can really see the difference when you watch the Chargers and their drop back pass game and the intermediate middle of the field throws with Herbert hitting McConkey and Allen versus the Broncos just simply not getting it done. And granted, you're not seeing them called at a league average rate, but you're not hitting them when they're called. So I don't really know what Sean is supposed to do. I know it's very frustrating, but when your offensive line is getting beat like they are on the run game in this one, and let's call it as the Quinn Miners, one of the worst games I can remember from him. He was horrible in this one. Wattenberg is he couldn't run block to save his life. You had no run blocking up front, and you can't execute drop back pass game. I don't know what you can call at that point besides screens and shot plays.
Yeah, and on that is, if you're going to say it, let's be honest here. They had less than 10 yards in the first quarter. Like, that's just how it was. They had 3 and outs where they had negative yards on 2 of them and 7 yards on the first drive. When it's that bad, it's not play calling. It's typically execution. And I think the play calling was really good in this one for the most part. I think there's more of an issue later in the game when 3 of your final 4 drives are 3 and outs and you gain a total of 10 yards. That I think there was a little bit more issue. Granted, some of that was, execution as well. But in that second half, you're getting the run game going, and then you called one designed run in those in those 9 plays, those 3 of those final 4 drives, 1 designed run. And your run blocking had started to figure out. You figured out what was being effective, and it wasn't the outside zone. It was the power gap concepts and inside zone that Denver did last year that they've shown that they can do very well. J.K. Dobbins' big run, that was an off tackle run. It wasn't an outside zone, and he's able to, get going north and south just on that path off of the double team with Garrett Bowles and Ben Powers. So there's a lot of issues with this offense, and there's some with Sean Payton, but I don't think overall it's Payton. I think it's him dealing with the limitations of what he's being handed to when it comes to player execution. And man, you are spot on with Quinn Miners. He has not been good to start the season, and this game was by far and away the worst. It's not going to be a good day when your best offensive lineman is Ben Powers, and that's how it was against the Chargers.
And Jamari Caldwell owned him on a few reps. So shout out to Caldwell on that one. I know one of our favorites in the last draft. Bama X, good to see you. Not hitting the panic button. We're only a few games in, but it's seeing like the same thing from our offense last year, but worse. Zero cohesion. I think the offensive line has taken a slight step back so far from what we've seen, but granted, 3-game sample size. I do like the running back room more right now. Now that might just be, is what it is. We'll see. But right now, this looks very similar to last season from the offense, and specifically from Bo Nix, which I think is the first time we've said his name today by name. So again, early on, and let's be real. Bo Nix, the first half last week looked pretty good. Offense kind of sputtered against the Colts there. It was really hard for the offense last week. I'm going to try to give them a little bit of a break because they had so little time possessing the football because the Colts just were marching up and down the field and they weren't getting touchdowns. But the Colts really, they controlled that game. This one falls on the offense, and Nick Kosmider over at The Athletic, he writes it up here pretty good. The Broncos went 2 for 13 on third down today. They had 8 3-and-outs. They committed 3 offensive penalties in the second half, including 1 in the red zone. That's not good enough. Now, that does not all fall on Bo Nix by any means. We talked about it already. The run blocking specifically was horrible. I would be really curious to know what the average third down distance to go. I think the Broncos, I saw at some point, they had a pick in the game sometime in the third quarter. The Broncos had 5 negative run, so 0 or negative yard plays, which counts as the negative run in the game as well. It's so hard to function as a drop back passer unless you're a de facto top 10 quarterback and really good in the drop back pass game. You can live that way. You don't want to. That's not Bo Nix right now. Let's just call it as it is. The drop back pass game element is not there. So again, it was a tough situation for this offense, and the hands is on them. And ultimately it is on Sean Payton. The buck stops here. Handpicked quarterback, the lack of discipline, hyping up this team, putting all this added pressure. Bo Nix is going to be a top 3 or 4 quarterback next year. Talking Super Bowl, not even just internally, but like getting it out there through his sources. You added this extra pressure and expectation. And when you don't meet these expectations, now granted, it's early, but no wonder people are going to be upset, and is what it is. We do want to get to Coach Chris. I had him up here and I took him off. Coach, I'm so sorry. He says, so frustrated with this team. I guess Sean was saying we are going to challenge for a Super Bowl. We have so many holes. Sean's abysmal play calling isn't helping. I'm again going to push back on the abysmal play calling. Without Sean's play calling in this game, you are shut out, and it's looking more like the Panthers 30-0 game. I think that there's lack of execution on the field is the bigger issue here. Maybe you can have an issue with some of the sequencing, but overall, I think it's not necessarily the play calling.
Yeah, as we were saying, there was a lot of really good play designs in this one that just weren't executed. There are a lot of them that were, fabulously executed for big plays and some great sequencing at moments, but sequencing has always been inconsistent with Payton at best. Even in games where the team goes out there and does extremely well, it's still like, why are you doing this in this situation? It's not, I don't want to say it's not right. It's just weird. It's different, which sometimes works. And I think one of the bigger issues with Payton was, as you kind of were saying, is putting the expectations on them much higher than they needed to be, coming out there and, really hammering away at Super Bowl kind of talk, as well as the way he's using players is very questionable. again, you can do certain runs with J.K. Dobbins. Outside zone's not one of them. And Denver tried that a few times with no success. And I mean, it's something that he struggled with all season. And then the favoritism of Sean Payton with some of the players as well. I've been hammering away about how bad Adam Trautman is. And let's be real here. He was a small part of the issues yesterday, but he was a big issue on certain plays. And single-handedly, his issues ruined about 5 or 6 plays, got called for a couple penalties. And it's just that they needed an upgrade at tight end for the receiving game. They also needed one to help with the blocking, and they just didn't care. They just didn't look. I don't want to say they didn't care. They didn't look to make that improvement. It was all focused on him, getting him the joker as in the term that he used and he started. And you're still now struggling with not having a good enough blocking from the tight end position, which that wasn't the sole issue with it last year. But there was 2 or 3 runs where the offensive line actually did well, and Trautman just ruined it. And the one, ended up getting called for a hold. And even with holding, he didn't win his block. Like, he was beaten badly right off the snap and had a hold to try to even do something. And there's a couple other runs where Trautman just didn't do that. So Sean Payton deserves some blame, obviously, when your offense can't close out and everything. But I don't think play calling's it. I think play sequencing and the favoritism and how he's using certain players is where the issues with Payton are, more than play calling.
But ultimately, it is on Sean Payton. This is his team. He has ultimate power. The Broncos being incredibly undisciplined now, 2 weeks in a row, with 10 penalties for 90 yards compared to 3 for 25 for the Chargers. Now, granted, I'm not blaming the refs. Denver lose this one anyway, but it did feel some of these were like, oh my God, are you kidding me? Refs, like the one that they called on Surtain that was actually on Moss, I think. Just very frustrating.
It was on Surtain.
It was okay.
It was illegal contact, where just outside of 5 yards he wraps up. By textbook, it's a penalty. Like, it's one of those that's like they were letting guys get away from it on both sides of the ball and they called it there. But by textbook, it's a penalty.
Well, unfortunately, the Broncos drop to 1-2 on the season, losing 2 very close games. Could easily be 3-0. Could easily be 0-3. I mean, that's just the league as it is. But fortunately for Denver, they have a team coming up that it's a week-to-week league. You never know, so you can't expect them to win. But I would be absolutely shocked if the Broncos were underdogs entering this upcoming game, even though we do love an underdog, Eric.
Yeah, speaking of underdogs, football is back, and Underdog is the best place to make picks and win money all season long. Playing on Underdog is easy. Just pick whether your favorite players will go higher or lower on stats like touchdowns, receiving yards, interceptions, and so much more.
That's right. Get your picks right, and you can win up to 5,000 times your cash. You can play with as little as $1. So if you think you've got a beat on what's going to happen in tonight's Ravens-Lions game, get your bets in, download Underdog, and win some money.
I have so much fun playing Underdog and winning money while watching football. That's a touchdown, you guys. Download the app today and sign up with promo code MHuddle to score $50 in bonus funds when you play your first $5. That's promo code MHuddle. Millions of fans have already won billions making picks on Underdog. Will you be next? Underdog. Make picks, win money.
Be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 HOPE line at 1-8778-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369.
Yeah, thank you to Underdog. Good to see Chase. It's a shame. Hated the Super Bowl talk, but still optimistic. Vibes are not great right now. Denver's close. They have things to work on, and I guess the negative is that it's not the same thing that's the issue, but that means that you can get things corrected and hopefully gets a little better. Also, the Chargers defense had been one of the best in the NFL last season and this season. They were like way in the lead as far as air yards per target, and there was a clip. I don't know if you saw this, Eric, and it is lip reading. But it showed Bo Nix on the sideline, and it looked like he said, I had so many chances today and very disappointed. And I would be shocked if that's not what he said. And he'd be the first to tell you the film room is going to be rough because there were points left on the board that were designed shot plays that are the look you want. I mean, you can't have it better than what was drawn up on some of those plays and left 14 or so points. I don't know if they got field goals in some of those, but left some points on the field. So had chances today and didn't execute. And we talked about the offense. It's not just on Bo Nix, but when you are on a football team, it ultimately comes down on the head coach and the quarterback more often than not. Todd Anderson says team can't win on the road so far. Just a 2-game sample size, but unfortunately, when it reaches a 3-game sample size is on the road in Philly, and Philly looks like a team that, granted, they just barely beat. Who did they beat this week? The Rams, who look feisty. Rams Eagles. That was a really good playoff game last year too, if I recall. But that one might be rough. Denver, the Bengals game, we might have to call it actually as a must-win. You cannot fall to 1-4. That's season over. Todd Anderson, this team can't win on the road. Yeah, good to see you, Todd. Coach Chris, again, today would be a run day at practice. They would be running until we got a crier or a puker. No discipline, no composure. I know it's early, but all the hype going into the season makes it worse. Yeah, expectation. But again, we are much better. We are at a much better point and a much better team than we were a year ago. Last season, we were sitting there at 1-2, and we don't have the Ravens still on the schedule, and we still have some tough games. We have a chance to rectify the Chargers. That might be the last game of the year. I can't recall right now. That Raiders team looks bad offensive line and pretty bad defense. I mean, you never know any given Sunday, but Denver's schedule is not the worst from here. And we got to be really cheering for the Colts from here on out, because we do not want, if they win the AFC South, whatever, right? Like it stinks because you lost a conference game. That can hurt you in the end, but we do not want to be head-to-head with the Colts. So Houston falling to 0-3. I think Jags are now 2-1, so we got to keep an eye on the Jags as well. But really want to be cheering for the Colts from here on out, because we do not want to be bumping up against them as a wild card spot, because that does seem like that's where the Broncos are going to be. Maybe we don't want to cheer for the Colts. Maybe that's going to be a slotting thing because the Broncos win the West. Who knows? It's still early. But yeah, Coach, it's the undisciplined nature of the team is frustrating right now. Also, do you have any fingers to point there or reasons why? Is this a Hufanga issue? I know that he's been a lot of fun player, but he's been kind of, head off on a few plays, and you do love the energy, but it's the personal foul. Some of the stuff he's doing is, come on, buddy. You got to dial in a bit. Calculated aggression from him, not the dog off a leash.
Yeah, I mean, if it was, a thing that started this year, I would say that it was, part of it is Hufanga, the fact that he is, because he's always had a little bit of a knack for penalties just with his play style. But it was an issue last year, and it was an underrated issue last year. And it wasn't necessarily that they got called for a lot of penalties. They were about middle of the pack last year. It was the penalties they were called for. And they were, despite being middle of the pack in total penalties, they were third most yards given up for penalties or yards lost, whatever way you want to put it.
Yeah.
And so it was just the types of penalties. And that seems to be an issue for them this year, as well as having a higher penalty count. And penalties, I said this after the Titans game, penalties are like a great equalizer with turnovers. They lost the turnover battle against the Titans, but man, the penalties against the Titans were just so in Denver's favor. And then against the Chargers, it was reversed. They won the turnover battle, but the penalties were so in favor of the Chargers. Not just total penalties where they had 7 more penalties, but obviously yardage comes with that too. So you got to look into coaching a little bit, especially with some of these penalties, like personal fouls, like body slamming a wide receiver. That's the player that's just not being their head right. And Hufanga's comments afterwards, like, I don't know what I did wrong. Well, it's pretty obvious what you did wrong there. But some of them, especially the ones on the offense, that is on coaching, and that is something that you can.
The alignment penalties. The alignment ones.
The alignment penalties. Like that is on coaching, and that is another thing you can blame Payton for, is he should be having these guys. And it's not like it's new guys to the offense. It was Garrett Bowles. It was Adam Trotman. Like, those are like, they've been in the NFL for a long time. They've been with the Broncos for a long time. Those are penalties you shouldn't be having. And then, the offensive pass interference on Troy Franklin, like late in the game, where you're body checking a guy 2-3 yards downfield. Like, that's not one that you can blame on it. That's one that's on player specific. And that's just something, I mean, you can blame it on coaching a little bit to try to be like, hey, this is a way that you can actually execute a rub or a pick or whatever it is you want to call it. You can't sit there and, raise your arms up and body check them. Like, so to an extent you can, but it's also just heads up by players. So penalties, not one player's fault, not coaching's fault. It's just a little bit of everything, really.
Yeah. No doubt. We got good to see Michael Ronquillo. Good morning. Always appreciate you coming in. Noah, good morning. Unfortunately, this team needs to learn how to win close games and one score games last year, 1-6 so far, 0-2 this year. Frustrating. It is frustrating, Noah, but we are happy to be here so you guys can vent. We're venting as well. Chase says it's a shame. Always hated the Super Bowl talk. Oh, we got that one. Good to see you, Chase. Appreciate you. I wanted to get through some of these comments here. Mike Thompson, the way the most gives me hope that we had been trashed. Yeah, they've been close so far, so that's good. Conga says if my sister didn't have 2 X chromosomes, then she'd be my brother. God bless you, Conga. We got Duke coming in, says the team is trash. I don't think they're trash, but they look like a mediocre team right now. Like if you were, but I always come back to like college football because I played way more of that on video games growing up than Madden, Eric. But right now they look like a 4-star program. Somebody who's like going to finish the season in an okay bowl game. So like Denver right now, it's more of a wild card contender versus a no doubt playoff contender and a division contender. We'll see what they do against Chiefs. I think the Chiefs are vulnerable right now. So and Denver's still got a chance they play. Maybe the Chargers and the Colts end up being 3 of the best 4 teams in the AFC this year with the Ravens and the Bills. God, the Bills look so good. But we have a lot of season to go, and who the Broncos are right now is not who they have to wind up being the entire season. Otherwise, if that was the case last season, Denver's probably picking top 5. And we know that's not the case. So long season to go. And while we can be frustrated about, Sean Payton, the lack of discipline, you guys can be upset about the play calling. I don't think that's it. I don't agree with that at all. But the lot of season left to improve and evolve from where you're at right now. And Denver's close. It's frustrating. The margins in the NFL are that. But hopefully they can have some leaders in the locker room look at each other and be like, we got to be more disciplined because we are close. We just do a few more things right, execute a little bit better, and we're winning these games against good teams, probably playoff-bound teams on the road. You're close. But I'd rather get blown out, Eric. In the moment, I'd rather get blown out and be unattached to the result of the game and be like checked out early versus getting the, your nuts twisted, which Denver has now 2 weeks in a row as time expires. Greg Smith, good to see you. Unless you're into that sort of thing, I won't kink shame. Todd, great to see Todd in here. James B says, Bo looks like a second-year quarterback rushed in the pocket, not staying on his feet to throw. Blew a chance at first in the division. Broncos will need to buckle down the next 7 games. Not to be totally cliche, James, but one at a time. One at a time, you got to take care of the Bengals next. And if you can do that, you're 2-2, and you got a chance to go into the Super Bowl champs, and we'll see what happens. But you got to get to 2-2 first. So hopefully this Broncos team can take care of business. And again, they probably should, given what the Vikings did, beat the pants off of the Bengals this week. But it's the NFL. There's a lot of pride, and it's all matchup driven. So you win by 1, you win by 50. It counts the same in the stats column. So it's important to stay healthy and just get that dub next week.
Yeah, and one thing is that you can only focus on the Bengals, especially when when you start looking ahead. That's when bad things happen. But us as fans and analysts and all that, we can look a little bit ahead. And the Eagles, they're going to be a tough matchup. They're not a consistent team right now, and that's kind of showing. They're definitely having those moments and lapses, and their run defense looks very questionable at best. Again, they just have some big moments there, but the consistency is just not there. And then the Washington Commanders, I think they're 3-0, but they're not looking like a team like that. It looks like that they just kind of had the benefit of who they're playing a little bit to help them there. The Texans look like a really bad team. So when we're talking about it with this team and how they can look better is, well, one thing is teams at the start of the season aren't who they are at the end of the season, and that applies to everyone. But right now, it's looking like some of those games that we've talked about as tough games for Denver may not be as tough as we initially thought. And in the Colts case, maybe a game that we thought wouldn't be as tough as it was, and it was tough. Maybe they're better than we thought they were, and maybe some of these other teams are not as good as we think they are. So that's one thing to keep your mind when you're looking forward at the season, why it's not over, why you still gotta, you still have to win these games. You still have to go out there and execute. And it just starts with the Bengals. And without Joe Burrow, it's going to be a tough matchup for them because Jake Browning, he just ain't it. But again, any given Sunday, anything can happen. And Broncos not in the best position, but again, season's not over for them. 3 weeks in, it's just where they go from here. And as you said, guys in the locker room, the leaders, this is where that's really going to be tested, where they're going to be tested about getting things focused up and battened down, especially with the penalties. It's time for the leaders to start holding their teammates accountable. And it's really past time for Sean Payton and Vance Joseph and Lombardi to start holding their players accountable. We've seen for a long time, Sean Payton kind of skirts around it, holds the wrong people accountable, especially in one area. It's time to hold, the right players accountable from the coaching.
One thing I will say, and we can just call it as it is, Bo Nix has been probably one of the 5 to 10 worst quarterbacks in the league through the first 3 weeks. Now, granted, there was some signs of life, and it's close, but that's the margins in the NFL, right? It is close, game of inches. We don't have to pull up the Al Pacino motivational speech from, what is it, The Untouchables? Is that? I can't even remember. Replacements? I don't even remember. One of those ones. But Amy, regardless, Bo Nix does have to be better. Amy Alice, good morning, Broncos country. Good to see it. Young Tyrone coming in, says, that's okay, Broncos fans. Keeps your heads up. Yeah, that's appreciate that. Young Tyrone, hope you're doing well. We do want to say hello to Duke says, so let me get this straight. Sean Payton is a first-round pick. Next year is going to be a safety, something that won't help us out now. Who knows? Wide range of outcomes right now. One thing I will say is early on, we don't want to get into the draft stuff too much, but it does not look like to be a very good draft next season in general. So maybe it's not somebody who's going to help you anyway. My bet right now would be just to toss a log on the fire on the offensive line and hopefully go that way and get somebody who's actually some size run blocking going there. Stella, good morning to you. Says Broncos the definition of the insanity, doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. I don't know. I mean, I guess yes, but I thought the plays were there to win this game. I mean, reading Bo Nix flips on the sideline. I had so many chances today. They had this plays dialed up to win this game. This is going to be a weird game also, Eric, because the Broncos end up doing better than the Chargers in yards per pass attempt. They do better than the Chargers. They have more rush yards and more yards per rush. It's the explosive plays. The big difference in this game is going to be the success rate. The Chargers' success rate is going to be unbelievably high. The Broncos probably finished with one of the lowest success rates in the league this week, especially when you're going 3 and out, and what their third down conversion rate was as well. I'll be curious to see. I can't remember the name, Sam Copen on Twitter. He does some analytics stuff, and he does a graphic every week. Like, did my team actually lose that bad? And it's like the differential in success rate. And that tends to be pretty indicative in a singular game who's winning. What is success rate? If you get half of the yards needed for the first down on first and second down, that's a successful play. If you get the first down on third or fourth down, that's a successful play. Obviously, it's a binary outcome, so it doesn't always match, but it's a good, simple statistic that's pretty indicative. I like it. Denver's going to have horrible success rate discrepancy in this one, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're one of the most should we have won this week lopsided games because they were terrible down to down, but they had some explosives. They should have had more. That, along with turnovers, can be the difference in the game. And Denver losing a game where they're +2 in turnovers. God bless them. And that ticks me off so much. That shouldn't happen.
Yeah, penalties again. Great equalizer when it comes to turnovers. But the success rate of this Broncos team was bad. Explosive plays, the J.K. Dobbins run, the 1 touchdown catch to Cortland Sutton, which was a chef's kiss for the play design on that.
Oh,
absolutely beautiful. I mean, Nate Atkins was your left tackle. You had Garrett Bowles on the right side. You really sold that run off the right, and just Chargers played it. Man, it was such a beautiful play design, such a beautiful call at the right time too. But the success rate, man, it's gonna be a bad one for that. And I'm looking forward to seeing what it looks like, because the Broncos, if it wasn't for those explosive plays, they get blown out, especially with the missed opportunities for it. You had 3 deep shots that one of them was most likely a touchdown had you dropped it in the bucket. Another one would have been pretty darn close, and the other one would have put you at least in scoring range at the very least. Like, those are plays that you just can't miss, and you're missing it by inches basically, and that you can't do that. So I'm really curious to see what the success rate is, because the Chargers, man, outside of the sacks, the 5 sacks, it seemed like every single time they were pretty much getting not necessarily successful plays, but picking up yardage, which can translate to being more successful than, just being boom or bust like the Broncos were.
We got James Todd coming in as we're starting to wrap up the show here. He says, as much as it sucks looking ahead, Jets, Giants, Cowboys, slightly easier. Texans game, maybe Raiders. Think we can right the ship. It might stink down the line when it comes to tiebreakers, but that's in the past now. You can only control what's in front of you. Denver had 2 winnable games. Now, granted, a lot of the key indicator stats say that we talked about it last week. The Colts won almost every single key indicator, and Denver still had a chance to win the game. I guess that's as ugly and hard as this is, Eric. That might even be a credit to coaching to lose all these key indicators and still have a chance to win the game. Shout out to them for that. But you have Denver losing the first downs in this one, 29-9. The third down efficiency, 8 for 17 for the Chargers, 2 for 13 for the Broncos. Total plays, 80 for the Chargers to 48 to the Broncos. 90 penalty yards for the Broncos, 25 for the Chargers. The fact that this was a last-second field goal attempt is almost preposterous. And again, sacks, the negative plays, the havoc rate the Broncos causing the turnovers is the reason it was close as it was. They're the great equalizer in football games. Denver also did an excellent job in defensively not giving up explosive plays. I think the only explosive play they gave up in this game was that Quentin Johnson broken tackle one, because I think an explosive pass by definition is 25 yards. The Chargers had a few guys get close to that. Keenan Allen, 20-yarder, Omarion Hampton with a 22-yard reception, but it was only that Quentin Johnson one that was plus 25. So only one explosive pass play given up by the Broncos. And that's, again, some things they did well in this one, but it does stink. Denver has a chance to rectify it. And again, one at a time, we get to 2-2 next week. We'll see from there. But this one, it hurts right now. And I think a lot of things that the reason Broncos fans, and we're kind of already starting to circle and we'll have a chance to talk about this Wednesday as well, Eric. But it's already kind of coming into the lashing out at each other because you have factions of the fan base that I think some are like obvious trolls or provocateurs that are like calling like Stidham would have made that, put in Stidham. And you have the Bo Nix has to have a top 3 offensive line and the best play caller and has to have Justin Jefferson and Tyreek Hill and Brock Bowers and Jamar Chase. Otherwise, it's not fair to Bo Nix and we can't criticize him. Again, we'll call it as it is. Bo Nix has been one of the bottom 5 to 10 quarterbacks in the league through the first 3 weeks. Does that mean it's time to pull the plug on Bo Nix? No, I'll leave it as that. That's stupid. That's preposterous. Second-year quarterback. Does he have to get better? Is he limiting the offense and limiting the play calls from the offense? I believe yes. I think that's not disputable. Honestly, I don't think Sean Payton wants to be just playing gimmick screens behind the line of scrimmage, checkdowns, and drawn up deep shot offense. I think that is a result of the quarterback and the play caller matching the quarterback versus the play caller putting the quarterback in a box. We'll see over time, but it's just 3 games. Bo Nix is still extremely talented, and as you touched on it, it's close. So again, I think we can be critical of what we've seen so far this season and call it as it is, and also point to the fact that yesterday the run game outside of one drive was horrible. It was 3rd and long constantly. The penalties not always on Bo Nix. So it's not fair to put him in those situations either, to expect to be that guy because there's like 8 to 10 quarterbacks in the league I would trust in the situation that Bo Nix was dealt yesterday to run a super efficient offense with no run game at all. And Bo Nix is not that guy right now. Can he be? Sure. We have time. There's been enough flashes that he deserves the leash there. But we have to be real with what we've seen so far, and it's just been not good. So I don't know. I know I'm probably going to piss off both sides. Having said that, talking out both sides of my mouth, but it is in the middle. He's been bad. Doesn't mean he's going to be bad. There's still reason for optimism. Where he's at right now, I think it's a chicken or egg situation. I think it's what Bo Nix is as a drop back passer right now is influencing the play calls versus the play calls influencing where Bo Nix is going with the football.
Yeah, there's just a lot of issues with his offense, and as you said, Bo Nix is a large part of it, but he's not the only part of it.
No.
It's hard to do things when the offensive line's not getting, work done up front, where you're not having a very good run game outside of a, 10-minute window in the start of the second half. maybe even, for the third quarter as a whole, roughly. It's tough, and it's, hardly any quarterback can go out there and thrive in that kind of situation for him. But, at the same time is they were in a situation where 3 deep shots were missed because Bo Nix just put a little bit too much on it. And it's almost like he knows that he has to put a little bit more on it to get those deep shots, and he just can't dial it in on how much more, as well as just the mechanics, like the footwork, reset your base. And there was one point where Trenton Green, one of the announcers for the game, actually made the comment of, "Oh, and Bo Nix actually reset his feet here to make this throw," because it's something that all season long we've had an issue with, and it was an issue last year as well. But he kind of corrected it a little bit later on to an extent. And it's like he's gone back to these bad habits that he's had, and he's one of those guys where Sean Payton has never really called him out publicly and held him accountable publicly. And it's past time that you do that. Like, even though this is the hand drafted guy, this is the guy you wanted. Like, you can't sit there and baby him too much. You got to make it clear that you are holding him accountable. And that could send, the right message through to Bo Nix as well. And instead of the coddling. So there's a lot of issues here. And again, it's not all Bo Nix. As you said, he could still be the franchise guy. He can still be a really good, great quarterback. You just got to correct these mistakes before they become too much of a habit for him, that he falls back into these bad situations, these bad habits. You got to break them now before it's just so ingrained in him. And, we're seeing some progress on that. The weird arm angles that we were seeing a lot in the week 1, we haven't seen as much in the last 2 weeks. And so it seems like at least they're working on clearing that up. Well, footwork is important. Cleaning up, the use of the midfoot force aspect of it, and being able to, use that footwork to help drive the ball, and, placement, which has been really bad the last few weeks. There's a lot on it, but it's not time to give up on him yet. It's time to, just see if he can, start bouncing back, start improving and going from here. Basically, you got to sit there and say, is like, treat these first 3 games, even though they do matter, be like, these were warm-up games, like de facto preseason games. Now's the time where you got to step up. This is when it really matters, because you're 1-2, you're 3 games back in the division, and there's a lot of teams that are looking better than we expected in the AFC, and it might make a wild card spot even more difficult if you don't start getting going now.
Yeah, and we don't need to turn this into the dump on Bo Nix, because again, like, overall, like, the reality is, if you want to be a year-to-year contender, you probably have to have a top 10 quarterback. But we're not there right now with Bo Nix. We don't need to be there. It's a rookie cost control quarterback. You need guys around him to pick him up. I feel like after the game, the locker room said and did all the right things to support the quarterback, who internally, I mean, they're not stupid. Like, they'll see the things left on the field, but it's their job also to make him right from time to time. It's the offensive line's job to make sure that they're run blocking enough, so that way it's not obvious drop back pass situations or the penalties. It's just, he's not that guy right now, and he might never be. We'll never know, but it's too early to say he won't be either. So overall, it is frustrating to see that. It does feel like a lot of the same Bo Nix stuff as last season. I agree with you. He has been a little bit better with the arm angle stuff. The footwork is still, I'm not sure what's going on. And a lot of the frustration with Bo Nix last season in the drop back pass game was he was one of the worst quarterbacks in the league under pressure. And that trend has continued so far this season. He's been really, now granted, he's not getting pressured a lot, but that trend has continued. When he has been pressured, the accuracy is poor. And I think it has a lot to do with the lower body mechanics. And also the other frustrating thing is I feel like the pocket maneuvering has been better, Eric, like finding space compared to week 1, but he's still not hanging in the pocket and working through progressions before getting to the check down in these drop back pass concepts. And in the league, over a long enough sample size, you cannot just be a manufactured screen, dump off, chuck it deep shot offense. There has to be some full field progressions, intermediate passes, because defenses are too good. There's just too much talent, and there's too much parity in the league. And we're just not seeing that from Bo Nix right now. So long season to go. He can still be that guy, but going back and shout out to Frankie Abbott as well on Twitter. I think he does stuff for Let's Talk Broncos out there. He always does good Twitter breakdowns after that, but he's breaking down plays right now where it's like Bo Nix hitting Marvin Mims in a check down when two guys are open over the middle of the field. He just comes off the read beforehand. That's one where you got to be hitting the back of your drop, working the progression, knowing where the safeties are buzzing down to, and firing it. And Bo Nix didn't do that at Oregon necessarily. Wasn't asked to do that at Oregon. Didn't see it last year. Have not seen it this season as well. And you counter that to Justin Herbert. He is firing that sucker in there. So again, it's the differences in the league. And right now, for where Bo Nix is at, rookie contract, second year, that's fine if we want to be a team that's bordering playoff contention, whether it be the 6th seed to like the 6th best team in the AFC to the 10th best team to the AFC. That kind of feels like the range for this Broncos team through 3 weeks. But if they want to be better than that, if we're talking top 3 or 4 quarterback, as Sean Payton said, or Super Bowl aspirations, it's just simply not good enough. And the Broncos team around him is not good enough to cover up those deficiencies that he has right now.
Yeah, and it's all offseason we talked about how this team would only go as far as Bo Nix will take them, and we're kind of seeing that is in these 2 games in particular, and specifically the 2 losses. Well, it's the situation where both games it came down to, can your quarterback and the offense go down and win and basically win you the game or secure you the win. And Denver struggled with that. I mean, again, against the Chargers, they had the 3 of their final 4 drives were 3 and outs. That's not good enough from your quarterback or your offense as a whole. And against the Colts, their final 3 drives, 19 plays for 83 yards. That's not good enough. Is it all Bo Nix? Again, no, it's not. But in the NFL, who's the most important player? Who's the highest paid player? Not in the case of Bo Nix, he's on a rookie contract. It's the quarterback. So it does fall on the quarterback in the extent is that those are the guys that you need to go out there to make plays, to move you downfield, to, make sure you're eating up enough time off the clock so they don't get a chance for a last-second field goal, or you're being able to instead of ending with a field goal, you're able to get that extra, 20, 30 yards to get into the end zone. It's on them. And so when you don't have the true drop back passing game, that's when it hurts the most, is in the, in the final 2-minute drill at the end of half and the final 4-minute drill to end out the game. That's when it really hurts not have a true drop back passing game. That's when it is when you're, where it hurts, where you're 1 or 2 read quarterback before you go into the check down. That's where Bo Nix is. And it's just not quite good enough for the Broncos. Again, doesn't mean it can't be, and not trying to hammer on Nix too much for this loss, because I think there's a lot more issues with it. I think there's a lot more issues with the defense than we really got into as to why they lost this game. And, talking about Bo Nix, it doesn't highlight the fact that there was no run game to help him out outside of, a 10-minute period in the third quarter. Mm-hmm. And part of that does fall on, game situation, play sequencing, and to an extent play calling. But Bo Nix was drafted to be this guy, and twice he's failed to show that he can be that guy. And it goes down to the issues he has and the issues you've highlighted with the true drop back passing game. When it's not there, it's hard because teams can really adjust how they're playing for you and know that they might be able to cheat their coverage somewhere else to help, stop another aspect for it, because that the quarterback, he's not going to go through his full 3 or 4 reads before hitting the check down. You just got to make sure that, 1 or 2 reads are stopped and then the check down, or, a scramble or something's going to happen. Just makes it a little bit easier for defenses to defend this offense. So,
yep,
gotta improve there.
And until they can either figure that out with the drop back pass game, working the intermediate and quick game, i.e., not screens or behind the line of scrimmage checkdowns, either that gets better or the run game, it's going to be a feast or famine offense like we've seen through the last 2 weeks. There's going to be dialed up shots because as much as we're frustrated with Sean Payton, the discipline for me and putting the unnecessarily expectations on the team, and some of the game management stuff too as well. Worse last week than this week, I felt, but it's going to be really hard to be a down-to-down consistent offense, and I think we're going to see a little bit of that. But Chargers are a good defense as well, and they've hopefully their defensive coordinator, whose name's escaping me, is on the short list for hires next season, because he's been unbelievable with that unit, despite not having a lot of premier talent across that Chargers outside of Derwin James. So we'll see. Frustrating loss again. Not to pin it all. What was that?
I was gonna say he's the favorite to replace McDaniel in Miami, Jesse Minter.
Heck yeah. Well, he's Jesse Minter. He's been unbelievable. So shout out to him and tip your cap. This game, I come down to it. The Broncos left a lot on the field, but when you were outpaced like the Broncos were on penalty yardage, on first downs in general, and on third down, it's going to be hard to win football games. And Denver just didn't do enough. They had control and they 3 and out. They pissed down their leg and they punt the ball, and that's that. But tough game. It really stinks to lose 2 games like that back to back. But a lot of seasons still to go, and the margins have gotten much smaller now if the goal is to win the AFC West, but they are still alive, and they ball bounces a few different ways. If they're more like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who have gotten the breaks falling their ways, Denver could easily be 3-0. The Buccaneers could be 1-2. That's just life in the NFL. So hopefully they can start to get some of those bounces their way, and the unforced errors. Denver would be 3-0 right now if it wasn't for unforced errors as well. I know that's what's it called? Arguing the counterfactual, which is something you shouldn't do. But I really do believe without the unforced errors, Denver would probably be 3-0 right now. So hopefully take a long, hard look in the mirror, take it out on the Bengals next week, and we can look at this as a footnote in the past. So frustrating game, frustrating to have these back-to-back, especially with the expectations being the way they are. But I think we can be critical and analytical about what we saw this week specifically, because this game felt like most of the games last season. Last week I was panicking with the defense looking like they did, because that looked different than we saw the defense look for a while. I'm like, if we don't have that to bank on, we're going to be in freaking trouble this season. Defense looked more like a top 5 to 7 unit this season, especially with the pass rush. Offense has to get better. I think they will. They're not going to play as many tough teams as the Chargers, and they got a chance to do it this week against a Bengals team that you have a chance to snatch their souls this upcoming week. So it's gut check time, and hopefully they can respond.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, it wasn't they didn't lose the same way where everything was going wrong for the defense and the offense was at least doing decently, like they did against the Colts outside of red zone for the defense, where they were great. But I still think that this defense, as great as they were up front, you're still seeing issues with a very specific linebacker, and he's just being a liability against the run as a tackler and coverage. And
God, the leak yardage in this game, Eric, was driving me nuts. They'd get him and he'd get another 4 or 5 yards. I'm like, Denver can never freaking do that. It's driving me insane. Also, shout out to Najee Harris, man. Devastating. I feel so bad for him. That's heartbreaking to see that happen. Go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
But yeah, Alex Singleton, I mean, man, and there's a lot of issues with this defense too in this game. The secondary wasn't great. I do think, they were better than the Colts, don't get me wrong, but there was so many just errors on their part. And to the credit of Justin Herbert, they gave up quite a few passes that were also, just amazing throws. The one touchdown that Riley Moss gave up, beautiful throw. Like, you can't cover that any better. It was
best play of the year.
It was just so great. And I believe that was the same one where Allen basically had Herbert dead to rights, and Herbert just sidestepped him. Man, so credit there for him.
And then he bent the throw around Nick Benito's arm too.
Yeah, like such a great play by him, and to get that in and then thread the needle into the perfect spot. So secondary just did do better, but still some issues. Tackling was the biggest one, and Alex Singleton, that's probably the biggest reason why. Justin Shenault, again, not great, but when Dre Greenlaw comes back, placed on injured reserve, finally should have done that at the start of the season. They believed he would be back in 4 games. Clearly, they were wrong, and they're throwing in the towel. I think that's what Sean Payton said, is that we're just ready to throw in the towel and give him the time that he needs. Like, so they're trying to, maybe a little bit overly optimistic they'd get him back in the first 4 games. But when he does come back, you cannot roll Alex Singleton out there anymore. Shenault's not been great, but he's better than Alex Singleton is at this point. There was a play, talking about leaked yardage, there was a play where Alex Singleton Naruto ran at the defender, hit him with the shoulder, didn't wrap up, and the guy picked up an extra couple yards. And he did that a few times. One of them was it went for nothing because there's another defender there for it. But you can't sit there and run with your arms behind you and run into the player and not wrap up and drive through them and just have them bounce off you. And that has become a staple of Alex Singleton. And even though we've talked about how good, people have talked about how good he's been for the Broncos over the past few years as a tackler, missed tackles have always been an issue with him. And it seems to be an even bigger issue with him this year. I'm at the point where even before Greenlaw's back, I think it's time to make a switch because he is a liability for this defense. He is the one piece that consistently has been awful and teams have consistently targeted to make plays happen. Yeah. Alex Singleton is awful at this point.
Dead legs. Very sad to see. Because I think I also hated that quote DNVR put out there from him. That one pissed me off, and I don't typically get mad, but he hit him with the nihilistic. Well, if we lose this game, we're all not all going to drop dead. Not exactly what you want to hear from your team captain going into a game that's supposed to be, a crazy linebacker type. When a team's like falling apart, it's the end of the year, and you have your head coach that's a dead man walking saying that's one thing. It's like you're spiraling the drain anyway. You're 1-1 with a chance to take the lead in the division. You're already kind of throwing that out there. I hated that. So frustrating. I need to fly because I heard a crying baby and we're 7 minutes over. So appreciate it, everybody. I'm not sure if I will be here Wednesday morning. It depends if we're still in the hotel or not. I will let everybody, the important figures here. No, you all are important, but Dylan and Eric as well. But appreciate everybody coming in here. All the super chats. We didn't get Troy here. We got to get this one before we go. Thank you so much, Troy, for the super chat. It says, worried, not panic, but worried about Nix. And I'm worried about expectations making things worse. Correction Monday night will help. It's a week-to-week league, and we're emotional week-to-week. We sometimes when the games are over, we can be a little bit more analytical and look at the overall sample. But when we're in the moment, it's really hard to do that. So hopefully we'll be riding the high after a comfortable win versus the Bengals. But nothing's been comfortable for this Broncos team dating back to, last time it felt comfortable was either the Atlanta game or the Panthers game. I can't even remember. It's been a bit. So hopefully we can have one where we feel good there. But just get the win. Stay healthy and just get the win. Appreciate you, Troy. Also, James Todd, Coach Chris, a couple times as well. Two $20 super chats. It's massive. And Todd Anderson. Thank you guys so much. You guys have a fantastic rest of your day. And make sure you guys are following Eric and I on X, Twitter, whatever it is. Eric's at Erick Trickel. I'm at Kendell MHH. And Eric has something.
Yeah, just real quick. We have somebody asking what game is the meet and greet? It is the New York Giants game.
Yep. So coming up here pretty soon. Yep. And we have comments talking about the team building. Eric and I love the team building stuff. We'll have plenty of time to get into that right now. Right now, it does not look like a very good draft. And I also see people using the first round pick on a center or a linebacker. It's kind of like, to me, that's when you have a car that's failing and you spend your most expensive part of your budget on the stereo system. It'd be good to have a good stereo, but there's other parts that might need a higher portion of your budget just to keep the car functioning at a high level. But we'll have a chance to talk about it. It always depends on the player and everything. We got a long off season ahead of us, but we're in the thick of the season, so we're going to enjoy it, even though it's very frustrating. Denver's close. Defense bounce back. Appreciate everybody. Like I said, following Eric and I, make sure you're following us also at Mile High Huddle. We're at facebook.com/Mile High Huddle and facebook.com/Mile High Huddle pod. And as that ticker says there underneath, please subscribe, like, and share. Make sure you guys are joining us as a team member as well. Subscribe to our membership group on YouTube. You guys have a great rest of your day. Hopefully we can see everybody at the meet and greet. That would be awesome. Hopefully it's still Russell Wilson because my God, talk about hapless. Woof. But appreciate everyone. Have a great rest of your day. 1-2 stinks, but have a chance to be 2-2 and back even next week. So we'll see. A lot to chew on still. And if you guys have any comments for us, you guys can get mad at me like everybody else is on Twitter when I said Broncos win this 40-6 if they switch quarterbacks. That wasn't as much a shot as it was at Bo Nix. Herbert's playing good, and I'm really ready to retire the Herbert hate that's a bit at this point. Not always the most clutch, but the overall sample, he's a top 5, top 4 quarterback in the league. So appreciate everyone. Have a great rest of your day. Stinks right now, but we'll be back on the horse here soon. Go Broncos.